He's back. Ben Shapiro, or as I call him, Squeaky Benjamin. He made a preposterous claim on Fox News. He's talking here about coronavirus and Trump. Watch this.
And, right now, Ben, the number one, charge of government is to try to figure out how to handle this pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic. The president has, he's gotten a lot of criticism for the federal response. Where do you see us being right now as we respond?
I mean, look, I think everybody's doing their best. I really do. I mean, I live in a Democratic state. I'm not real fond of our governor here in California, Gavin Newsom, but I think that most people are actually trying to do their best. I think the great lie that you're seeing is that there is an obvious and absolute answer to all of this, and that is things like lockdowns, and if those don't occur, then everybody is going to die. I think that if the answers were all that obvious, then they would be applied. I mean, the fact is everybody is trying to deal with an unprecedented situation. I think President Trump's response in terms of his actual policy has been very good. I think the media have been attempting to focus in on his rhetoric a lot more than they've been focusing in on his policy. If you focused in on his policy, what you'd see is people like Gavin Newsom and Andrew Cuomo mentioning that Trump gave them the resources they needed when they needed them. The fact that this has become political as opposed to just a question of let's all do the best we can to get back to a functioning economy and a functioning life in America while stopping the pandemic. The fact that this has become political is just an indication as to how loose our moorings are in terms of national unity.
Ben Shapiro, one of the things he's most known for repeating is facts over feelings. So let's speak his language here. I have some facts for you, Ben. Notice he says, well, his policy has been good, and then he doesn't name any of his policies on COVID-19. Whoa. Show your work, dog. You can't just say, well, his policy has been good, and then not mention any of his policies. What are the policies that are good? You just said they're good. What are they? Please. I'll wait. Tell me. What are the things that are good? Tell me. You said it's good. What are those things that are good? I'll wait. Now, the actual facts on this. 144,000 Americans are dead as a result of COVID-19. 144,000. That's more than 2 Vietnams in terms of U.S. casualties from Vietnam. This is a much higher death rate than other developed countries. Perhaps the only other countries that are struggling as much as we are Brazil and India. Other developed countries have handled this spectacularly well compared to us. So when you look at the results, when you look at the facts, indeed, we are performing uniquely terribly on the world stage. So you can't say his policy is good because then these wouldn't be the results. The results would not be 144,000 deaths. Now, beyond that, 32% of the country didn't make their housing payment in July. I submit to Ben Shapiro, are those people just all of a sudden very lazy? Is that what happened? Do they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps? Or is it a direct result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent economic depression that we're currently in? Which one do you think it is? Which one sounds more reasonable? Which one is Occam's razor? 32% of the country woke up one day and said, you know what, I'm lazy. I'm not going to pay my housing bill. Or the entire economy is imploding. 28 million people, it's been reported, can become homeless in the near future as a result of COVID-19 and the economic fallout. 27 million Americans have lost their job-based health insurance. Millions and millions of people are hemorrhaging their health insurance in the middle of a pandemic, Ben. If everything else was not bad and we were handling it well, and still only that one fact existed, that 27 million Americans have lost their job-based health insurance, I would say, oh, it's been a failure. Because if you don't have insurance, the treatment for COVID-19, the bills are up to $75,000. $75,000. This is why medical bills is one of the top causes of bankruptcy. So on that fact alone, this has been an abysmal failure. 40% of restaurants are in danger of permanently closing. And I haven't even gotten into the COVID-19 bailouts where effectively Wall Street and the financial institutions, these big corporations, got the keys to the treasury given to them by Goldman Sachs lackey Steve Mnuchin And they've been looting the treasury left and right. So basically all the corporations got socialism fully implemented for them, and working people got a measly one-time stimulus check of $1,200 and some extended unemployment benefits, which are running out now, by the way, very soon, within the next few days. So there was a giant bailout, and the money went to the rich and corporations, and he's saying this thing was a success. By the way, what happened? I thought you were a small government guy, which means you shouldn't be in favor of any bailouts, theoretically, whether it's for regular people or for the wealthy. But we had a bailout of the corporations and the wealthy, and all of a sudden you're saying that the coronavirus response was a success? This was an abysmal disaster. What policies were successful? None of this was successful. What are you talking about? Now, this is where a reasonable person who's watching this might say, okay, but Kyle, what did you want him to do? They're incredibly simple answers to that. I always use the example of Japan. Now, Japan never did a total economic shutdown like we did here. They did very targeted economic shutdowns, which I guess, makes sense in a pandemic. But they had less than 1,000 COVID-19 deaths. And the main reason why is they reasonably socially distance, they care deeply about the hygiene, and masks are basically universal. So if you had Donald Trump in, let's say, early April, when we already knew how bad of a problem this COVID-19 was, in early April, if Trump said, I'm doing a federal mask mandate, everybody who's outside has to wear a mask. Everybody who's not in their home has to wear a mask. And, certain targeted shutdowns make sense. Like you can't have indoor eating at restaurants because you have to take your mask off to eat at the restaurant. So that wouldn't work. So you have to shut down like indoor restaurants, for example, maybe some other things like movie theaters or whatever. But like you could do the targeted economic shutdowns, not the total broad-based one, right? And have universal masks, and that alone, according to one study, would have cut our deaths 1/12 of what they are now. So there you go, universal masks that he did early on, and I would have loved it if Trump was selling masks on his own website with Make America Great Again written on it, because what would happen is a lot of the hardcore Trump people would wear masks because Trump is telling them to wear a mask. They're like, of course, yeah, makes sense, pandemic, duh. And lefties, it's not like lefties, there are some who are like the hardcore partisan idiots who'd be like, he's pro-mask, so now I'm anti-mask. But the overwhelming majority of Democrats would have been like, it's a pandemic. Yes, I'm going to wear a mask, duh. Because, it's the Democrats who believe in evolution, the Democrats who believe in climate change, the Democrats who are generally more pro-science. So even if Trump's out there all rah-rah masks, Democrats would have been like, yeah, I agree, masks, good idea, let's do that. So just that alone, Ben, that alone would have been gigantic. That alone would have been huge. But he didn't do that. And in fact, as recently as, a couple days ago in his interview with Chris Wallace asked him, why not do a mask mandate? And he was like, I don't believe in that because freedom. And then he went on to say, I want to force the schools to open. So he says, hey man, no mask mandate because I believe in freedom. The states need to make their own decision. And then when it comes to schools, he's like, no, I don't want the states to make their own decision. I want to force them to open the schools. All right, so Ben, what are the answers? How could this have been a success? Targeted economic shutdowns, universal mask policy. Those are the two most important things. Beyond that, we could have copied the other countries whose economies have weathered this storm well, but you do that by temporarily nationalizing wages. This is what Germany did, for example. There's a bunch of countries that did this. I think the UK did a version of this as well, where the government said to the businesses, listen, we have a crisis here. You guys aren't going to fire anybody. We're not going to let you fire anybody. What you're going to do is you're going to furlough everybody. And you furlough them, and we, the government, will step in and pay about 75% of their wages for the duration of the crisis. And then what happened? The unemployment rate barely budged. Barely budged. In Japan, the unemployment rate's like 3%. Now, we at the time had a 3 or 4% unemployment rate here when this thing started. Now the real unemployment rate is over 20%. The official one's like 11%. We could have just done the same thing that they did and we wouldn't have had this problem. But we didn't do that. It's a dog-eat-dog world here. You're on your own. There were companies that took bailouts and turned around and fired everybody anyway. Boeing did that, for example. Here, let's take billions of dollars, shake down the taxpayers, take billions of dollars, and then turn around and fire everybody anyway. Our response has been a joke. Now, I'm being specific in terms of policies that were bad and what we could have done to fix it. Now, even if Ben says that's too big government-y, I don't like it. I don't like the nationalization of wages, even if it's temporarily and even if other countries have proven that it works. Okay, Ben, then a UBI for the duration of the crisis was absolutely necessary. You support that one? My guess is no. But these are the answers, guys. Either temporarily nationalize wages, do a UBI for the duration of the crisis, universal masks. Like, these are the solutions that would have actually worked. But instead, he goes out there and says Trump's policy has been a success without naming Trump's policies or acknowledging that 144,000 Americans are dead. That's more than 2 Vietnams. 32% of the country can't make their housing payment. 28 million Americans could become homeless. 27 million Americans just lost their job-based health insurance. About 40% of restaurants could permanently close, which gets to the main point. If this was a Democratic president with these facts, Democratic president with these facts I just gave you, what would Ben say? What would he say? My guess is he wouldn't say, oh, well, we did the best we could. Gosh, golly gee, Papa, what a good policy. What a cuck. Come on, man. What happened to the facts over feelings? There are no facts there. It's just your feelings.